Good afternoon. Welcome back to Rhythm and Riffs. For today, I'm going to be talking about my personal top 5 tips for getting better at jazz improv, featuring Pixie. Starting off with number 5, finding a way to repeatedly listen to a backing track or having access to backing tracks. What I mean by this is, obviously you're always going to want a rhythm section, an in-person rhythm section over any type of backing track. It's better for obvious reasons, but 9 times out of 10, you don't have access to one, especially when you're practicing. So I recommend that you have a stable way to find backing tracks for your playing. Lots of people use YouTube and apps, and I've even seen some people, try and find websites and stuff like that. But one that I specifically recommend that I use is called iReal Pro. And basically this is an app where you download it from the App Store, go in, inside of the app you go online and you can research and find whatever chart that you're playing and get the backing track for it, and you just import it and then you can go into it and boom, it's right there. Some features of this app include customizing. You can edit it or change the backing track, and you can even create your own. And you can edit the backing track in other ways, like you can adjust the tempo, the feel of it. You can adjust the key that you're in, and you can even adjust the style. Latin and double time swing and stuff like that. And you can restart it, and it's great. And what I really like about this app is, especially for new players, it's kind of hard to tell whether what you're playing is in the key signature. So as you go through the different keys, it actually pulls up the notes for you. Obviously, before you have to select, your instrument, like I'm a B flat instrument. So it'll adjust to that, and it'll know, and it'll show you on the scale what notes for each specific chord, which is really helpful. Number 4, jamming. What I mean by this is basically jamming is something that was taught to me where it takes the dread out of practicing, it gets rid of the dread of practicing. It doesn't bring in interest. But this includes practicing and with and without your instrument. So what I mean by jam is, let me give you a quick example of, let's say I have like an entire jam day, for instance. I go home, I throw on my backing track, and I just jam a little bit. I'm like, ooh, I kind of like that. Ooh, that sounds good. Ooh, nah, I don't really like that. Whatever, you're jamming, it's pretty obvious. Instead of, sitting there, repeating the same line over and over again and stuff like that, you're kind of just jamming. And then let's say I have a flight to catch. Let's say I'm going to Colorado or something like that. So I would pop in my headphones and, on the plane ride, when you're driving, passenger seat, taking a train, or just have some free time and you can't play an instrument, you can literally just sit there. And you can just do that and finger along. It really does help. A big part of improvisation is figuring out ideas on the spot, and it's a good way to practice that. So I really recommend just jamming. I know it might sound obvious, but yeah. Number 3. This one's a little more broad, but I think it's very important, because one of the hardest things about jazz, in my opinion, is the nerves. There's a lot of pressure. You go up there, you're having to think things on the spot while having hundreds of people in front of you, a rhythm section focusing on you specifically. It's really tense, and you really do have to build up your nerves for it. So one thing that I've seen people doing that I've done is I would play for friends and family, just bring them into the room and be like, hey, I just want you to listen, you don't have to give me any critique, and literally just play. Day before your concert, just, Mom, can you come in here real quick? that is really helpful. And another thing that I've seen a lot of people do is that they'll just play for strangers. One thing that I did, it wasn't improv specifically, but I played in a grocery store. You know, if you go to a grocery store, you go to a town square or something like that, literally all you need is your instrument. Doing it with a backing track is optional if you're gonna be there for like a good amount of time. But honestly, if you just sit there and make something up on the spot, like no key, no nothing, just working on your improv, it's something that really helps with your nerves, especially if you gain a large audience. Someone who really helps me prove this point, he's on TikTok. I believe his name is Nathan or Nathaniel, something like that. I might be thinking of the wrong guy. I'll pull him up. But he'll basically go anywhere. Parking garage, pools, concerts, under bridges. He'll go anywhere and he will just play. Really good, really talented musician. And he'll just play for just for the love of it. He makes a lot of videos, and I guarantee he doesn't post every one that he does, so he does it a lot. And you know, it proves, because he also does concerts and stuff like that he posts, and he does really well and doesn't break. So I really recommend you just get into the feel of playing in front of people, because it will really help you. Number 2 is a kind of mix of transcribing and taking / stealing, whatever. Basically what I'm saying is transcribing, or let me just get off the transcribing real quick. So what I mean by stealing is, let's say, you're blank out of ideas. And this is gonna lead me into the number 1. But basically, there's gonna be a lot of points where you just don't know what to do, and just like if you have a 2-minute solo or something like that, improv can be, really stingy. I'm gonna use an example of when I played Cruisin' for a Bluesin'. It was like a 2-minute long solo, pretty long. And I didn't want to do improv that entire time. So I took a piece from Billy's Bounce and put it into my solo, and it took up 15 to 30 seconds, especially because it was a repetitive lick. And I just went through it. My director printed it out for me. I went through the pages, figuring out what lines, and I just took licks from that and added it into my improv solo. Doing that really does help, and you don't have to do it for paper either. I know I got a lot of my licks and stuff online. Like a good trumpet player that I follow is Summer. She has a lot of good licks, and I remember for a night in Tunisia, I took some of her licks from her old high school videos and plopped those into my solos. Not completely copying her entire solo, just taking out licks that I like. And that leads into transcribing. If there's another instrument, like someone's playing a saxophone, but you think that really sounds good, and you want to do that on, let's say, a trumpet, transcribing that can really help. You don't just have to broaden yourself to your own instrument. And yeah, it is really helpful. And finally, my number 1 tip for jazz improvisation is to sequence your solos. So let me break this down a little for you. I'm gonna consider 2 types of solos that you have. There's solos that, for example, you have a solo in Cruisin' for a Bluesin', and your director says, hey, you have a solo for Cruisin' for a Bluesin', you're doing this for contest season, you're gonna be the first one to go, and you have that solo, that's yours. This is what I'm talking about. I am not talking about gig-wise, when you go up and you play a well-known chart for a group of people, you're with a band you're not really familiar with or whatever, and you have to raise your hand like, hey, I'll take a solo, hey, I'll take a solo. That is not what I'm talking about. So we're gonna stick on this page. Now, building off of that, what I mean by scheming is, you need, it's really helpful, especially in the early days or your early jazz career, to plot out your solo. What I mean by this is piecing together your improv with licks and stuff that you either made or took from someone else. Trying to figure out a better way to explain this. So one thing that I struggled with at the very beginning of my jazz career was knowing where I was in my solo. My director would be like, okay, 16 bars in Cruising for a Blues, and I would literally just have to listen and pray that I could figure out where the ending of that was. It's pretty easy when you're the first one to go up and there's someone with a solo behind you, because you can just listen for when they come in and then you're good. But if you're the ending or you're an only person solo, you really do have to have good ears and listen to the rhythm section and know where you're supposed to stop. Because, I'm gonna be honest, counting while thinking of improv is very difficult. So what I did is I schemed it and put it together like a script. So I would piece together my improv. An example of this is for Cruising for a Blues. I had a 2-bar solo break and 16-bar solo. So what I mean by scheming it together is I found a solo break that I liked that I made up from practicing, and I played that same one every single time. Every single time I had that solo break, I played the same thing, which led me into one note, and then I continued with just straight improv for 4 bars. At the end of my first 8 bars, let's say there was a key change, right? And I'm listening for the rhythm section for that key change. So instead of like thinking, oh, okay, I need to switch these notes, it's good to piece something in there. So let's say I find a lick online from someone that I really like. I can transcribe that and paste it in my solo. So now, leading into the last, 4 beats or 2 beats of your 8th measure, you put let's just say it's a scale. You go scale up, and then into your next 8 bars, you scale down at the very beginning. Written part that you memorize and put in there to connect those. So, you're sitting on the key and you're like, you're improving, and then it comes up, so you're like, and then you continue your improv. I didn't have a key change specifically, but for Cruising for a Bluesin', I kept the same solo break, and then I had a solo. I had an improv part, and specifically after my first 4 bars, to start off my next 4, I would have the Billy's bounce, and then I went back to improv. Piecing it together to put things and licks like that into your solo that you really like is really helpful, and it can really help you keep track of where you are on the solo, and it's just good. Thank you so much for watching. Really, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps, and if I missed anything, please let me know, and if you have any tips or have any questions, also let me know, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching.